The way most people level the Witch is through ED Contagion, and the most optimal and like most common path is generally considered to be the Lich. However, through campaign, I don't think this is necessarily the case, and I would even say that even after campaign, there's an argument to be made for the Lich not even being that good. This is primarily because of two things. Number one, the Lich's ascendancy nodes in campaign are really not that good. You usually go Soulless Form into Eternal Life, right? What Soulless Form does on its own, it just gives you like a good amount of mana regen. After you get Eternal Life, what it does is it gives you essentially 10% damage reduction on all of your energy shield. The problem is that this first step, it doesn't really do anything. Like mana regen isn't an issue. And the second step, it doesn't do that much during campaign because for the most part, your health is going to be a way bigger resource than your ES. This will only actually give you like a 2% boost to your effective HP. The second problem with EDC is just that it has terrible mobility and single target damage abilities, okay? So because of that, I was thinking maybe we just skip Lich through the campaign and we level the campaign with Demon Form Infernalist. And then once we get to endgame, respec out of this and then go into Lich, because when you're at the endgame and you have these two nodes, you could also get another 5% node here, somewhere here, to get even more bypass. You can take another node down here to get like 5% more bypass, which gives you just 5% more DR. And then you can get another 10% off of Mitsuri's helmet. So you have like 25% DR total. It's very, very nice. I 100% think that like that is a very, very suitable option for the end game. However, for the campaign, I think Infernals is way better. I actually stumbled upon a video that my good friend Travis sent me of this Chinese speedrunner. He was able to complete the whole campaign and do maps tier 1 through 15 in 7 hours, okay? Using Demon Form Witch leveling. So it just so happened like I was already prepping this and then I found that video and it kind of showed me how to do this exact idea that I had just completely optimally. And going through the tree, this is what he does. He first paths up through here. Like this is entirely standard. He goes to entropy, comes up here, comes up to intelligence, potent inclination. This is actually going to be right here on the new tree. And then he comes back down up here for lingering horror. After that, he comes all the way over here and grabs this lasting incantations node, which gives you spell damage and increased skill effect duration. Skill effect duration is obviously amazing for dot skills, and the spell damage is also amazing for all of our skills. The reason why he comes here and takes 8 attribute nodes is for 2 reasons. Number one, it's to solve the biggest issue that I just kind of went over with EDC, which is a lack of single target damage. The way we solve this is through an ability called Bone Storm. Bone Storm is a physical damage spell, so it won't benefit from any of these chaos nodes, but it will benefit from general spell damage nodes. So this node is actually incredibly high priority spell damage for our single target. And it also benefits our like tertiary and clear ability, which is ED Contagion. Next, we're going to go over here to Zone Control. It gives us Hinder on Curse, which is just nice utility. But more importantly, once we get this node over here, hindered capabilities, we then do more damage to cursed enemies who are hindered. This again is to solve our biggest issue, which is single target damage. We are only really going to be cursing the bosses and the rares that are really tanky. So this is primarily just to buff our Bone Storm single target DPS. After that, we can come up here for Void and maybe even Blackfire and take these totem nodes in preparation for Dark Effigy. Come over here, grab Royal. You can come up here, grab Dark Entities. You can pretty much do whatever you want, and it all really makes sense. So what he does, and what I did as well, was during maps, we swap into a different tree. So since we're already pathing up here for Dark Entities, and we're pathing up here for Enhanced Barrier, it actually makes more sense to take this totem later on once we have the points to, and we unspec out of Lasting Incantations, and we unspec out of this totem wheel because we're no longer going to be using Bone Storm as our primary damage method. This is kind of at map point, we drop out of Bone Storm, and we don't really use it at that much, if at all. And this is kind of like what our tree is going to look like. Obviously, we want Whispers of Doom as well, because we're going to be running Enfeeble / Temporal Chains / Despair setup going on, and this will enable that entirely. And that's pretty much it. The tree is actually really, really simple. Let's talk about the skills, which are also really simple. So number one, Demon Form. We take this Ascendancy like as soon as we can get to Sekima. This shit is actually super broken because of a very obvious reason. At full stacks, which is 10 stacks, you will start losing a decent amount of HP, but at the lower levels, it's a lot less. So like throughout most of campaign, like the first half of campaign, you're going to be losing like 40 damage per second at max stacks, which is like pretty much nothing, considering the fact that you can just use your flask and what you're getting is way more. But at 10 stacks, you will be getting 30% more spell damage. So that's multiplicative. Like that's 30% more, not increased. This is huge, a huge amount of damage. It's just incredibly nice to have, but far more important is mobility. So for example, this is kind of like what you look like when you're just like moving around. This is nice, but this is what the this is what the dodge roll for Witch looks like. It's significantly faster than just walking around or running. It's around the same speed as sprinting, but you can still sprint in demon form. And you can actually do this weird like sprint dash thing. I highly recommend it. The benefit isn't just the speed, but also just like it's going to be really hard for enemies to hit you when you're moving this fast and when your dodge is this long. So what ends up happening is you're just going to use your ability, you're going to use your ED, you're going to use your contagion, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to like dodge through the pack. It becomes really easy to maneuver through the zones. So on top of this, right, you can actually add, and I was doing this, I was kind of sweaty. I had like a +1 skill amulet. This is a +2 that I'm using now in maps, but I had a +1 skill amulet that I would switch on for bosses. And then I was running the like the sigil +1 meter dash or dodge roll amulet when I was going through the zones, just to give me a little bit more distance. And I'm pretty sure the way demon form works is it actually just doubles your dodge distance. So that 1 meter on the amulet kind of has a double effect and now is 2 meters. But this is primarily like the benefit of demon form is just like this insano movement and mobility. You actually get cast speed now. So that will also help you just like ED, contagion, dodge. You know, it just makes the entire process a lot faster and it helps you get through maps. If you know anything about me, I am not very good at the game. I primarily was a hideout warrior and I was actually like zones ahead of like Fubgun for like the first 3 or 4 acts. And I ended up blowing that like, and that's only because I am not good and I wasn't good at kind of managing the gear that I was wearing. I was negative res throughout the most of the second half of campaign, and I ended up dying like 50 times in campaign, but I was still able to get to the final boss at around 8 hours. But I was still able to get to the final boss at around 8 hours for the whole campaign. So that is a really important skill, and this is like the whole crux of why we're doing Infernalist. For some reason, like the other gems don't work. Cannibalism, like clarity, none of that stuff works. The only thing that really works that is meaningful is Second Wind. And that just makes it so like you have 2 charges. And that's really nice because if you just run out of life, you're not managing your life pool and your flasking that well. Or if you just like misclick it or something like that, you can just have a second one ready to go. The next thing is the Summon Infernal Hound. This is going to be your second ascendancy. I recommend that you get this as soon as you possibly can as well. This is just very nice. It's an additional meat shield for free, but on top of that, you can actually get you can get meat shield and you can get elemental army, just to make it tankier. But more importantly, you can get loyalty, which makes it so damage from hits, 10% of them go straight to the pet, which essentially gives you 10% DR on damage from hits. It's very, very nice. It kind of covers up one of your weakest spots as the demon form witch, which is just that you're really squishy. So the benefits are 30% more damage, which is very significant. Insane mobility, but the downside is you're squishier because you're constantly draining your life, and you don't really have that many defensive layers in terms of like your ascendancy. After that, Contagion ED. This is pretty standard stuff. You go Unleash, Rapid Casting, or you can do Magnified Effect. And then the third one is Chaotic Freeze. This is actually really nice. You'll end up freezing bosses a lot of the time. And with Bone Storm, what ends up happening is you'll freeze for one, and then afterwards you'll be able to stagger them because Bone Storm is a physical damage spell. And then next is Essence Drain. You're going to want Rapid Casting. That's going to be like the first thing. And then you're going to want Chain, Swift Affliction for the second 2. If you only have 2 sockets, what you're going to do for the most part is you're going to just swap between Swift Affliction and Chain. Chain for when you're clearing zones, and then Swift Affliction for the bosses. Don't go chains 3. I'm pretty sure this just doubles the number of additional chains you have. So if you don't have any additional chains already, it just doesn't do anything for you. You pretty much just want chain 2. I don't have this now. I swapped out of it recently, but you're actually going to want to go Arctic Armor here. from your spirit gem that you get from the King of the Mist. This is because it just does a fuck ton of damage. That's really all it is. It just does a crazy amount of damage. It'll help you. Ironically enough, with single target damage, killing rares, and doing a decent amount of boss damage as well. You don't care about the Withering Presence because, like I said, you have zero problems with clearing trash mobs because ED Contagion is just meant for that. The only problems that you have are for rares and bosses, in which case you are going to be using Bone Storm, which won't benefit from the Wither at all. And then that brings us to Bone Storm, like our Insano single target ability. The way this just works is you just channel it, and then you just cast it onto something, and it deals damage. It stacks, like, I forget what it's called, but the more times you do it to the enemy, up to like 60 stacks, the more damage you're going to do. We're going to want Brutality, Virgin, Armor Break. These just are the most efficient ways to enhance this ability. Next, there's Living Bomb. I think this was an overall net positive. It's really quick to cast, and it does a good amount of damage, especially when we do the Convert Fire to Chaos. You can just not include as well. It takes no time at all to cast. Like in your rotation, it'll be like 0.5 seconds to cast both, and then you just want like rapid casting, overabundance, and then like concentrated effect or something like that. The next are pretty much our primary curse is going to be Despair, and then we're going to want to add Heightened Curse and then Decaying Hex to it, as well as Arcane Surge. Heightened Curse just, makes it stronger, and then Decaying Hex actually has a unique interaction with Dark Effigy, which I'll get into in a second. But Decaying Hex essentially will just add a Chaos dot onto the enemy. So Dark Effigy, this is going to be our primary single target damage source later on in maps and probably at the end of campaign as well a little bit. But what this does is just summons a totem, and then here we go. It just summons a totem, and then if the enemy has some sort of chaos dot on it, it'll attack the enemy. The more chaos dots you have, the faster it'll attack. So that's why it's really important to put Decaying Hex on our curse. That way, when we curse the enemy, what will end up happening is it'll just also make our Dark Effigy attack a little faster. If you get lucky and get a little bit more spirit, or like towards the end of maps, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add Blasphemy with Temporal Chains or with Enfeeble. It's kind of up to you with preference. I like Temporal Chains more, but the speedrunner guy, the Chinese speedrunner, he goes Enfeeble. So it's completely up to you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really, really easy to do. Like it's not that much harder to like micromanage. Like I said earlier on, you have less like debuff. Like right now, what's my debuff? Like right now I'm taking 16.3 life loss per second per Demon Flame. So at 10 stacks, it's 160 life loss. But at like level 30, you're only taking like, I think 4 or 5 per second per Demon Flame. So that's like 40 or 50. It's easily offset by just getting a little bit of regen and then using your flasks. One thing that I want to mention is wands. You don't want a Chaos Wand for campaign. You want an all spell skill wand because that will benefit both your Chaos dots, but also, more importantly, your Bone Shatter. Or sorry, your Bone Storm. I would even argue you'd probably want a plus Fizz wand over a Chaos Wand because even with 0 Chaos plus skills, bonuses, your ED Contagion is going to clear the blues and the white mobs incredibly easy, and your Bone Storm is all you really need to clear the rares and the bosses. Another thing worth noting is throughout campaign, I was constantly buying upgrades. Every time I got a couple exalts, I would look to make an upgrade. And the upgrades were like pretty much just like upgrading the wand, priority 1, upgrading the focus to get spell damage, and then plus spell skills, priority 2, and then priority 3 would be like getting a +1 all spell amulet, or getting like the Dodri gloves that give 100% spell damage, or just like getting some takiness or whatever. Actually, I neglected that. I went all in on spell damage, and I would say that was a mistake that I made. Okay. And that is why I was able to just cruise through the first 3 acts and be way ahead of everybody else, even though I'm not a good speedrunner. I'm not really good with the axe. Was because I did that part correctly. And the reason why I fell off so hard was because I didn't do the second part correctly, which is make sure that I get upgrades on my defenses. I ended up just being like, okay, I have the +3 wand, I have a +1 focus, I have a +1 amulet, and like I had a fucking blue belt going into the interludes. It was a disaster. But you can just offset that by just being more diligent on like picking up. I mean, I was looting gear. I just didn't happen to get any good belts. I didn't happen to get any good rings with res on them or life or anything like that. Just be a little bit more cognizant of that. And you can easily just, especially now, you can buy belts, rings that have resistances on them, and just make sure your resistances are at least like 20, 30, 40, like that kind of zone. Going into like Act 4 and the interludes, like you just want to have some resistances. And also make sure you have a thawing charm. Act 4 and the interludes have a lot more cold monsters than I was expecting, and I didn't have a thawing charm until like the end of the interludes, and that was a fucking pain in the ass. Anyways, that's pretty much everything. I'm just coming off of a 24-hour stream, so this video might not be that well edited and whatever. So anyways, that's all there really was to it. I definitely recommend that if you were going to be doing ED Contagion, even if you end up wanting to go Lich, you just start with Demon Form to get you through the campaigns. My good friend Rabbit, who makes one of the best guides for Lich, he got through the campaign like 2 hours after me. I would recommend that we do, like, this is all obviously hindsight, would be just like get through the campaign using Demon Form. And then once you are ready to do maps, or once you actually have the gear like the Azeries and stuff like that, you have the currency to do it, just go get your third Ascendancy and then just respec into Lich. It'll cost you some gold, but it won't be that much. And it's really seamless. That way you just get the best of both worlds. But I plan on staying with Demon Form. I think there's some really cool things that we can do, especially now that you can use a weapon. It opens up a lot of doors for insanely cool builds. And I definitely plan on cooking on that further. But yeah, if you want to do the Lich build, I'll link Dead Rabbit's guide in the description. I think he does an incredibly good job, and he has updated it, and he's playing that build himself right now. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Best of luck. I hope you guys all have a great league start.